Hey, welcome to the Early Morning Musician. This show is for artists committed to creating in the margins.
Before their day jobs, after the kids are asleep.
From the business trip or the basement.
We get it, and we're going to share everything we've learned along the way.
Welcome to
The Early Morning Musician.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Early Morning Musician.
Welcome back.
We are sleepy. We were up at 5:45 this morning doing...
Killed it.
Some vocals.
Final tracked our next, the last of the vocals for our next song.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
This is like, we're the Early Morning Musician and the Late Night Podcast.
Yeah.
This is like 8:30, 8:45.
Yeah.
We just put the kids to bed.
Not too late. Not too bad.
Yeah. So we're going to do this and then we're going to go to bed. But we wanted to talk about our songwriting process as a married couple, which took us way longer than we wanted it to figure out.
Yeah.
We have tried a lot of different stuff together over the years and finally hit our stride and found something that worked. Maybe 3 years ago, we started kind of getting a groove where we figured out.
Say so.
Yeah. But before we really figured out what worked, we tried everything probably. And we even tried co-writing with other people, which if you're not writing in a married couple, and you're probably not, if you are, then like, hey, but if not, then you're either writing by yourself or you're co-writing. And we tried co-writing with people in school, actually, in college, and we just had some, realizations along the way about co-writing, and our experience was, it was just funny. We were in a group that was...
Yeah, it was really awkward.
We were in a group, and this happened more than once, where we were placed in a group with people that we didn't really know very well, and kind of given a time limit, maybe a week or maybe a month. And one time, it was a writing retreat for me that was only a weekend, and we had one afternoon to come up with a song together. So
I don't know if I did that. Was I there for that?
You didn't.
I don't think I was. No.
But it's, same thing kind of over and over, is that you have this co-writing group and then you have a goal time. And if you've ever co-written with anybody before and it's goal set, then you've probably had like a time limit too that you're trying to reach, and, maybe your release date. And we would have these experiences with, strangers essentially, and get in this group. And then we'd start bouncing ideas off of each other, right? Well, I think we should write about this, and I think we should write about this, and I kind of have this idea, and inevitably someone kind of takes the lead, and they're like, okay, well, I have an idea. And then the rest of everybody kind of tries to move into a support role and help. Eventually what happens is that strengths emerge, and someone tries to kind of give their strength to a spot that they see as being weak, and then you eventually end up with a song that maybe nobody in the group likes, and it doesn't feel authentic to anyone, any one of us.
Yeah.
But
especially, for sure, when you don't know people.
Right.
But like those situations, you're like thrown into a group where you don't really know the people. They don't really know you, and you're concerned with their feelings,
Right.
So it's hard to communicate. Right.
And for us, I think that was still happening for years as we were trying to learn how to write together. First of all, I think we didn't know what our individual strengths were for a long time. And figuring that out was huge. I'm not the best melody writer. My melodies are kind of, when I write, they're very flowy, up and down, all over the place.
Yeah, pretty busy.
I'm not super great with rhythm. I don't mean that I'm not super great with timing, but I'm not super great with like making...
Like cadence, maybe?
Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. And I was writing these songs that were like really maybe poetic lyrically, but were not catchy at all. And I was doing that for years, and it took me a long time to figure out, like, this is just not singable, or this is not catchy, or it's not going to catch anybody's ear, although it may mean a lot to me. And Ryan, when he's writing songs, what would you say your weaknesses and strengths are?
Well, I feel like my strengths are obviously like Definitely melodies. I'm
Yeah.
not a good words person. I try to do words sometimes, and every now and then I feel like, blind squirrel finds a nut kind of thing. Like I'll stumble across something that kind of works. Like our first song, Heart Keep Time, like that
Mhm.
line was pretty cool, I thought. But not great with words, but melody, I feel like I can hear it.
Mhm.
So, a lot of our process is me singing just like, hey, babe, like, you listen to this. And like, no, 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 no. Like, I just sing it to you with no words and try to help you like catch the vision. So I
Mhm.
feel like I'm good at that. And then obviously I do like our production and stuff. So I feel like really my production strength is really what like bolsters up my melody writing because
Mhm.
I typically start with music and then once I feel inspired, I'm like, oh, I can find a melody. So then that's really where I spend a lot of the time when it comes to writing is focusing on the melody because obviously that's 99% of a song really,
Right.
you know?
But I didn't know that when I first started writing. For
Yeah.
years, I didn't know that when I was writing. And it wasn't until we were really taking classes that I figured out, oh, okay, kind of this is what makes a good song, objectively, instead of it being such a subjective, vague, nebulous thing of like,
Yeah.
what makes a good song? How do I do it? How do we hack it? What's attractive to people besides me? How do you read that in advance? So we're taking these classes in school, and I remember the first time I heard somebody say melody is king, everything else has to serve melody, and a light bulb went off, and I thought, I literally didn't know that. I think that there are probably a lot of young writers out there who don't know that everything needs to serve a really strong melody.
Yeah.
And then it took even longer, I think, for us to figure out what makes a strong melody. And then there's what makes a good hook, you know? Um, so our songwriting process eventually kind of whittled down to Ryan top lining melodies.
Yeah. Yeah. Mostly.
Yeah. And I just learned what top lining is recently and just learned kind of that everyone in the music industry does it. And I mean, would you say that you just figured that out on your own?
No, it was actually what was it? I think it was like, Ed Sheeran did a documentary.
Yeah, we watched that.
Yeah, we watched it together and I want to do that again so bad. I was really jealous because like watching him do that, basically in the documentary, like him and just a bunch of his friends and songwriters that he works with, they just go to a cabin and they spent like 2 weeks there and everybody brought their acoustic guitars and like recording gear. And then all week long, they just laid around this house and wrote little, what I would probably describe as like jingles. Like it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't even like full blown songs. It was like, oh guys, come here, listen to what I just wrote. And he would just like, they would play like a 2 chord progression and like somebody would sing a melody and they'd be like, oh yeah, and then you can go here. And you just watch this song develop. And what I noticed in that was they almost never had words.
Mm-hmm.
They were just da 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 da, just like singing nothing. But they could hear the melody and they're like, oh, this melody on this chord progression, like that's going to turn into something. And that was enough. Like they would write a whole song with 0 words. I remember when I saw that, I realized I was like, oh, the words didn't matter at all. Not that words don't play a big role, they definitely do. But I realized that like most of what catches a listener's ear is the melody. And it's good when you can take the words away from it. You can actually like whatever the meaning is that you're communicating, remove it. Does the song still catch your ear? Does the melody, when it's just an acoustic guitar and just the melody, is it interesting? Because it's really, I feel like as someone who produces, I know that I, in the past, have struggled with trying to make the music so interesting that people want to listen, and my melodies would be terrible. So I would like try to bolster up bad melodies with interesting, hipster, weird music,
Mm-hmm.
and really it was just like I was just like way off. And it wasn't until I saw that I was like, oh, the melody and just an acoustic guitar and a piano, that's it. If it sounds good there, then you can really do whatever else you want with it after that fact. So for me, that was like a duh. Like, of
Mm-hmm.
course, that's how they do it. Like, that makes so much more sense. And of course, that's not just Ed Sheeran. You see that in any major pop artist. That's how everyone writes. It's very
Mm-hmm.
common in like hip hop and R&B and rap. They've been top lining for decades, and like that's why their phrases and their melodies are so recognizable because they've just been focused on top lining for so long. That's what makes a lot of the big rap artists like distinguishable from each other. They have really unique and it's almost like a fingerprint. Like their cadence is very specific to them and the way that they top line. It's game changing. Top lining, game changing.
Yeah. And we were watching this guy from Eurovision tonight. Well, I don't even know if we can say his name. He's from the Netherlands.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah. And immediately when his song starts playing, our kids are completely enamored.
Oh, rocked.
Yeah.
Rocked by it.
They wanted to watch it over and over and over again.
We'll watch it 4 times, all the way through in a row.
Yeah. And he's singing in a different language,
Yeah.
And they don't need words at all to be interested in the way that song sounds and feels. And my son, he's 3, his favorite song right now is this Crazy Frog song that is just gibberish. Mm-hmm. But it's got a super memorable melody that sounds like ding, 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 that.
Yeah.
And he wants to hear it every day. And he's super into Imagine Dragons. And I saw this TikTok the other day where this dad was saying, where are the children finding Imagine Dragons?
It's so true. Because they love it.
Yeah.
They love it.
And we don't actually listen to Imagine Dragons, but our children they've just found it.
It's funny how they gravitate to whatever has extremely strong melodies, regardless of genre. Like they don't care what genre it is. Does it catch their ear? And they love it.
Yeah. So the song Believer has been my kid's favorite song from Imagine Dragons for the last several weeks. And, the melody is, you pick me up, believer. That melody.
Yeah.
And my son thinks that he has no idea what he's saying.
Right.
But it's
he's 3, so there's that.
But it's so cute to hear him say believe up because he's just vibing.
So cute.
But anyway, you have been top lining for the last few years in our songwriting process.
Probably 4 years maybe.
And once you started doing that, and I was able to come in with my strength, which is still just words, and able to lay words over the top of whatever melodies that you were creating. That was really when we found a system that worked for us as a married couple who were co-writing together all the time.
Yeah.
And it expedited everything. It allowed us to just, puzzle piece what we do. Mm-hmm. So Ryan we release 1 song a month right now. Our dream is to release a song every...
I'd love to do a week, but I would for sure have to be doing this full time for that to even be even close to reality.
Yeah. And Ryan had a tough day at work today, and then we have a family, and so we're really busting our booties to do a song a month. Yeah. And having each other is what makes that possible.
Oh, for sure.
Because Ryan is able to go in there with a melody and, your guitar. And we're able to pick a concept. And because we have the same kind of like genre interests, that was another thing that was difficult about co-writing with other people that we didn't really know, was that everybody has a different idea of what cool music is.
Yeah.
And we've been together for 15 years now. And when we first met, our genres were not the same.
Not
the stuff
same.
That we liked was not the same.
I was all the heavy, chuggy, that stuff, just like a mess sonically. Yeah. And I still kind of am. Like the fact that like Creed's kind of popped off here recently, I'm okay with it. I'm like, yes, like come on, Scott Stapp, like do that thing you do. I love it.
You really liked divorced dad rock as a kid, would you say?
Yeah. Some of like the divorce, like the cheesy, like Nickelback, crossfade, like just it's gross. Like I look back on it now and I'm like, ugh, that's so bad.
No, I mean they're great. They're great melody writers.
Yeah, and I think that was really what, because I remember even as a teenager, I was like, I could never put my finger on why do I like certain songs on an album. What is it? But I could tell you exactly, it's these 3 songs. Those 3 songs are the best on the record, and I could listen to them over and over. The other ones are okay. I have no idea why. Now, now I look back and I'm like, oh, it's because those choruses. Mm-hmm. Those choruses are obviously stronger than the rest of the record. So it's like my ear has always gravitated towards melody, even if I didn't realize I was listening for that. I was. And I think that's really most people. Like most people are listening for that, like what's going on in the main vocal,
And then I think that I grew up listening to, I was a lyric heavy listener. You know, I really want, Ryan used to say that I like to listen to songs that men wrote about girls and that girls wrote about themselves.
For sure. It was always like you were putting yourself in that thing, like, oh, this person's singing about me, or like, oh, this is me singing about me.
Main
like,
character energy.
Yeah, you loved it. You definitely main character energy.
But you know, you have to be lyric heavy for those kind of fantasies to even happen. And I was listening to a lot of Sarah McLachlan, who, you know, is a ballad writer, and she's super poetic with her words. Anyway, so this developed my ear towards like, I really don't just want a great melody. And songs that I could tell were only about melody and the lyrics didn't make sense frustrated me from an early age, because I wanted to sing, and for like the full resonance thing to happen, I wanted to feel what I was saying. And really good melodies make you want to sing along.
Yeah.
But you know, sing what? I wanted those experiences to mesh for me. And anyway, that love for lyric just made me want like a really, really specific thing. And you know, now I feel like I like more stuff. The stuff that I like the most is really, really strong melody wise, and maybe even really, really vague lyric wise, but lyrically beautiful. You know, I can tell that there's thought in it. I can tell that there's concept. I can tell that there's like fluidity through it. You know, from start to finish, it feels like it makes a full circle. So anyway, the lyric matters. But
For sure.
yeah. It's secondary. And that was such an interesting thing to learn.
It is, but I think when you prioritize melody and you start with a good melody, I think it actually gives you permission to write better lyrics that maybe have more meaning, as long as you can fit them into your melody and into your cadence. Because the thing that's going to catch people's ear is already there. It's kind of like when you barely hear a song on the radio, it's like down too low. You hear it and you're like, oh, it's kind of interesting, turn it up. And then you get this amazing story that just like is captivating, that you connect with. It's like authentic. When you really capture those two things together, your song goes from like, oh, that's a good song, to wow, that's a great song. That's a wonderful song that everyone's going to listen to. But you got to have them in the right order. If you start with an amazing story, if your melody isn't strong enough, people are going to be lost. It's going to feel disconnected. It's just not going to hit in the same way. But when you get in the right order, money.
Yeah.
It's money.
And that's why Taylor Swift is the songstress of our time, is because she really pairs storytelling with really good melodies. And I think it just proves that, you know, I spent so much of my youth and my 20s learning how to trying to be a strong singer, and grew up watching American Idol, grew up watching The Voice. You know, we're listening for who is the strongest singer, who can sing this cover the best. We didn't have any songwriting shows, you know, until recently. And I don't even think the one that we had lasted.
There was one for a minute, wasn't there?
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was.
And maybe it's because, you know, the technicality of whether or not a song is written well is just not as entertaining as listening to someone sing covers really, really well.
Yeah.
But I was growing up trying to learn how to be a really strong singer, and it was a kind of a disappointing shock to get to the end of my 20s and realize that being a songwriter is kind of what matters, you know?
Yeah, it's what actually enables you to do the singing thing that you want to do. You have to be able to write amazing songs. Or, I mean, I guess you could technically be so technical that your technicality gets you where you're looking to go, but you literally have to be like an Adele or a Susan Boyle or like, you know, like one of those people that's just like, what in the world?
Yeah.
Like, that is unbelievable, which there are so few. But if you can songwrite, which I love Taylor Swift, don't get me wrong, but she's obviously not known for her singing, like how technically good she can sing.
Right.
But her songwriting gives her the opportunity to belt in front of stadiums full of tens of thousands of people all over the world, because she focuses on melodies and then develops wonderful stories after the fact. And then, you know, people love it.
Right. And it was weird to realize that this is why our American Idols are not heard from much
Right.
after the season or after the show is over, with the exception of a few, because people do like to hear bits and pieces of really, really strong singing. But what people love more than that is being able to immerse themselves and insert themselves into a story that then feels like their own. So you take a song, a Taylor Swift song or whatever, that becomes my story. That's so much more intoxicating than listening to someone who's really, really good at sing. Although that's entertaining, it's not about me. And that was another thing that was really interesting to realize about songwriting, is that even though our stories are a key component of what we're writing about, it's really all about the person who's going to take the song, whether or not they can take it and make it about them. It's really more about them than it even is about the writer.
And we've talked about that a lot, like thinking about music as not only an art, but a service, and I think a lot of people have been like, there's been this tendency where if you write with the listener in mind, you're a sellout. You're sellout. You're just trying to write, whatever kind of music. But I think that if you can change your perspective from, it's not that I'm trying to sell out, but it's that I want people to connect authentically and feel known. Like, how do I make my story relatable? Because we're all people, we're all humans, we're all walking through life in a very, the world, we all live in the same world right now. So how do we take our unique experiences and frame them in a way that we're proud of, that we of course love? We frame them with amazing melodies, and we find a way to beautifully tell a story that other people can connect to and see themselves in and can sing along with. And again, like Taylor Swift, like she does that so well, and that's why she has so much success. And definitely early songwriters kind of miss that. Their art becomes a little self-centered, a little like, this is about me. Like, I'm going to sing and tell you my story because this is me and you love me. And the truth is that especially when you're an indie artist, no, they don't. No one cares. Like, you have to give people a reason to care, and you do that by taking care of them. You do that by seeing them and making them feel known through your art.
Yeah. And my favorite songs of all time are definitely my favorite songs because of the way they made me feel.
Yeah, it was just like we were talking about in the beginning. You were the girl that the guy was singing about, and you were the girl that the girl was singing about.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was so much more about me than even imagining what was happening with the writer.
Right. You were just like, what? Forget them. Like, this is about me. Exactly.
Yeah. And I think everybody does that with their favorite song. Is even if it's not a story that they're wrapping around themselves, it's a sound that they're wrapping around themselves. It's a defining moment. This sounds like, this summer. And every time they hear that song, it's going to remind them and take them back to that summer where this and this and this happened. And it's going to be the soundtrack of their movie, Yeah. And that's what the service that you're giving people. And my favorite songs I'm so thankful for. They have been a huge service to me,
Oh, yeah.
They've changed my life and changed the way I move through the world. So definitely, if you're a songwriter and you're figuring all of this out, it's a service. And
it's a service. This is like songwriting is customer service, whether you realize it or not. It's just like you're, working the counter at a McDonald's. Like, you got to put on a smiley face and you've got to love the person in front of you because it is truly about them. And if you do that, if it is just for you and you're just singing it in your bedroom alone, like, okay, then it is all about you. But if you're going to release something and try to make a career of it, it really does have to be about other people.
Yeah. And especially now where the market is so saturated at all times.
Oh, yeah.
With writers, with music, with singers.
I Googled it again the other day. I think it's like 100,000 songs / podcasts / whatever go on Spotify a day. A day. 100,000. So how do you stick out in that? You got to be the one writing relatable songs.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
People can connect to.
And especially if people are ever going to pay money.
Yeah.
Because we're so endlessly entertained with free. TikTok is free. And I'm there all the time when people are saying, I cannot believe this app is free, because you just get entertained at such a high level. But if people are ever going to pay money for what you're offering, it has to be a product that's worth buying. Sure.
So if you're songwriting, melodies first, storytelling second, both important.
And find somebody who can be the strength to your weakness.
Yeah, know what you're good at.
Yeah.
And admit to yourself what you suck at.
Because Everybody has those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the second episode of The Early Morning Musician, and we're cheering you on as you wake up tomorrow morning or whatever margin you find to work on your art. Oh, that's the timer.
We're done.
We're done.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.